Today we're talking about the fastest climbing or rising god in Smite at the moment. And this video is sponsored by OMNIDESK. More on that in just a moment. First, a quick rundown on what we're going to look at. So the god in question has been rising drastically in performance with the most recent patch, and I'm expecting the god potentially to be one of the strongest gods in the game. We will see about that, but we're going to look at all the statistics and why I would think that, what the indications are and how the performance looks like right now, how it looked like before, everything that comes with that. Right now, you've got some time to guess which god this is going to be while we talk about OMNIDESK. So today's video also has a sponsor. And this is not quite the usual sponsorship where somebody reached out to me and said, hey, we want to sponsor you for this video. It's actually the opposite. I reached out to OMNIDESK, who provided me with this lovely table. And this is not just a table, this is a standing desk as well. It can go up quite a fair bit, which I'll show you in a second. And the reason why I wanted to go with their model was because they have two motors. It has a dual motor setup. And the issue with a lot of standing desks that are automatic is that they get kind of wobbly, kind of shaky because you just have one motor and then the motor often fails as well. So this one was my primary choice to begin with, and they said, sure. And so here we are. And now I'll show you how good this desk actually is. And we're gonna go all the way up. We also have a nice memory function. So I just need to press whichever number I have saved for this height. So we're gonna take the highest height here all the way to the top. And you can see how smooth this goes up. I can put a little glass of water over there and you will not see it shaking at all. So now we're all the way up here. And you can see it's very stable up here. I can just sit on it. It's very sturdy. It's not shaky at all. Screens are very stable. So very, very nice. And I'm very happy with this. And just as easily as we went up with this desk, we can also go down again. Just have another number saved for that here. So I just press that and then I'll just go back to the adjusted height, which in this case is the absolute minimum height. And depending on how you're sitting and how ergonomic you want, you can of course set it to any level in between. You also have a nice little rounded edge if you want and all kinds of other tools. I will drop the links down below so you can check them out and you can have a look for yourself. Thanks again to OMNIDESK for sponsoring this. And just to quickly show you what the desk looks like at maximum height, this would be it. On the other hand, you probably never actually use it at this height because it's a little bit too high. You want to have it a little bit lower even when you're standing. And that's the reason why this video actually works well for the sponsorship, because Omni is not very far from the god we're going to talk about. Still haven't figured it out? The god we're talking about has Omi, which is Yemoja. If you've already faced Yemoja a little bit this patch, you may not be that surprised by it. If you haven't, then this may come as a surprise for you. But I made some bold claims at the start of the video. I said that she might be one of the strongest gods in the game right now. And in order to unpack that one, we have to start at the beginning. So when Yemoja was released, she was generally not seen as all that strong. She was also a bit clunky to play because it was hard to use her Riptide ability, the portal basically. The ultimate didn't always hit enemies in every place even though it should have been, so she felt very awkward. But then in patch 6.12, most of these issues were fixed. And after that, in early December, Zapman made a tier list. And what he said about Yemoja was, I don't really know much about Yemoja. I know you can spam abilities with her, but we're going to put her in S because Deathwalker told me that she's sick. He then briefly looked away. I'm guessing he looked at his chat or Deathwalker was talking to him, and then he actually placed her in SS tier. And what he said about that was SS because she literally uses no mana, she can spam her abilities, her ultimate is insane for team fights, and she actually does a lot of damage for a Guardian. She has Guardian scalings, I'm guessing he meant mage scalings at this point, insane. Now keep in mind, this was all said before last patch. Hi-Rez on the other hand didn't see it quite the same way. They posted in the patch notes for Heimdall, where they also buffed Yemoja, this goddess has launched at quite a low balance point, yes it's true. Yemoja is one of the lowest win rate gods across all game modes and skill levels. So they decided to change her, and what they said about that was, one of our primary dislikes about Yemoja was her build path. Her passive forced builds to be very constrained, so 2 of her 3 bonus Omi are being shifted to be earned through level, while only 1 required a mana item to be built. Another issue we noticed was that players were rarely making contact with her abilities. Her offensive abilities have strange shapes and scaling sizes, which makes them especially difficult to land, so both forms of ability 1 are seeing slight increases. Her healing was also lower than expected for a goddess designed to play that role, so this is being slightly increased as well. Again, keep in mind that Deathwalker, or by extension Zman, already said on the previous patch that she was actually very strong. Now let's look at the changes. Omi changed objectives to earn Omi from 300 and 450 and 600 mana and MP5 to bonus Omi 1 at reaching level 4, which is typically significantly lower than the time where you would actually have that much extra mana, so you definitely get 1 Omi earlier. Bonus Omi 2 reaching level 12, and bonus Omi 3 obtaining 300 mana or MP5 from items. That means that overall, on average, you will have all 3 Omi so much earlier in the game, and you can often have all of them by level 12 depending on what items you're going to build. So this does improve the quality of life aspect of freeing up her build, which I think is a very good idea, but on the other hand it gives her access to a lot of Omi very early into the game, and I could easily imagine it being more balanced if one of them is shifted to level, I don't know, 18 or something, and the other one is shifted to level 8, 10-ish. After all, she already has the benefit of having no cooldowns. Her Bouncing Bubble had its radius increased from 12 to 14, and her Moonstrike had the minimum radius increased from 10 to 12 at max range, that is. This is an aspect that makes her significantly easier to play, especially for players that are maybe not quite as skilled, so this is something that makes it much easier for her high impact that Deathwalker claims she has to trickle down to lower levels of play, where aim is more of a struggle for many players. The abilities are of course still not guaranteed hits at all times, especially because both of them are relatively slow compared to many other abilities, but definitely a lot easier to hit than before. And last but not least, Mending Waters had its healing increased from 20 to 100 to 30 to 130. This may not sound like that much, but keep in mind that it bounces to all your surrounding allies, that it also comes with a 200 shield per target on top of the healing, and that the ability has no cooldown. So if she was to spam all her Omi just to use this ability, not even factoring in that it also has 20% scaling and you could also build items like Word of Asclepius with it, you would get 390 healing per target very quickly, plus the extra 600 shield, which seems to stack at the moment. And to highlight just how impactful that can be, I want to show you a clip from a game that I heard recently against a Yemoja and a Morrigan that at that moment was turned at Yemoja. Just look at the health bars and how quickly they go up again. Fascinating, isn't it? Of course, a double healer comp of any sort will always heal quickly, even if it's just through Morrigan and there was no anti-heal against it, but I still find the healing capabilities of Yemoja with her Omi very interesting. And unsurprisingly, with her already being considered strong by at least some players in the Pro League, the reaction to the buffs is not necessarily positive. Slaney, coach for Rival, posted in response to my tweet, "I absolutely can't comprehend why they would buff her so much. It really makes me doubt anything they do in the future. They buffed almost every part of her when she was fine before." Now I personally believe that some of the buffs are fair. I can understand that her being held back by itemization was kind of annoying, and that's not how guards should work in general. That didn't mean that the Omi levels had to be increased so early. I also think that hitting the one could be very frustrating at times. That didn't mean that both parts of the one had to be buffed at the same time. I also don't think that on top of all those buffs she needed the heal increase as well. Now before we look into her performance stats, I want to talk a little bit about her kit right now and what makes her so strong in my opinion. Well, first of all, of course her abilities are spammable, but that also means even though her scaling numbers don't necessarily look super high with 40 to 55%, they can end up being much higher, and they are also relatively big AoEs, so you can hit a lot of targets for a significant amount of damage still outside of the first one. If you end up spamming her whole kit for damage, you can reach upwards of 300% scaling with her. In combination with her good base damage values, she is absolutely all set when it comes to damage output. In Casual Conquest right now, on average, she does more damage per game than Terra and only slightly less than Ares. And keep in mind that Terra does much of her damage without even doing much for it, just through her ultimate and through the big AoE of a 3 as well, while Ares is a support purely designed around damage. Yemoja has healing and tons of other utility along with that. And this utility is a major factor that you can't even see reflected in most games. You have so much CC throughout the game, you basically can consistently slow or stun enemies at long range, set up for your teammates that way, and they can get off so much more damage, and that's something you will not see in the stats directly. Likewise, her massive shields won't show up in the stats either, which also have a drastic impact besides her already good damage and healing stats in most games. She also has more range with her CC than most other Guardians, especially with the bubble of her 1, which can bounce very, very far, and sometimes that's all you need. And that's not even going into a 3, which is honestly a super bloated ability. You get a knock up forward, increased movement speed, and extra protections, while enemies that go into the ring are slowed. You can even use multiple rings to get someone out of the combat zone very, very quickly. I personally still struggle to even utilize this ability effectively because I spam the 1 and the 2 so much, but if you're very skilled and experienced with Umoja and you know how to properly use it, then this can be devastating. And then you also have the added utility of the ultimate. The ultimate doesn't even come down to its damage in my opinion. A lot of people say, well, it would be much better if you collapse it instantly, but that's not the point. First of all, she has very easy access to CC, so you can just stun or slow enemies in the ultimate. Second of all, you can enhance this by building an item like Horrific Emblem. And third of all, sometimes blocking off enemies is all you need. This ability can single-handedly turn teamfights around completely by isolating one of the enemies inside the ult or multiple and others outside of it, and depending on where in the jungle you're fighting, this can completely block off enemies from the ult if they don't have Phantom at that point. Not to mention that the walls make it extremely hard to see what abilities are even coming at you. And you can see that very well here, where it's really hard to even see the Huyi ult in Umoja's ultimate. And that is the case for many other abilities, or many other abilities that just fly at you through those walls and then you get hit by them and it's like, wow, I had no time to react to that. So as of now, in my opinion, Umoja's entire kit makes for a very deadly combo. But my opinion is one thing, what do the stats say? We're gonna look at casual as well as ranked modes, based on the information that we get from casualsmite.com, both normal.casualsmite.com and ranked.casualsmite.com. Let's begin with Arena. This is the only mode where her performance is still below 50% win rate, and that is because her ultimate is almost useless in Arena. You can't effectively block enemies off when the entire field is open, and as such, her win rate is still going up by 27, but she is significantly worse than in any other mode, and that shouldn't be a shocker, and I don't think she'll ever be popular in Arena. But then in Assault, her win rate is roughly 52%, and her win rate went up by 28 spots. But what's really interesting here is Conquest. Her win rate is now at 51.38%. At the start of this patch, on the first day when people started learning her and picking up for the first time in many situations, maybe since release, her win rate was around 49%, so it already increased by 2% since then. She is now in spot number 27, which is an increase of 62 in terms of win rate, and I think it's just the start. I think people are just picking up and learning her, and once more people have a base feel for how a kit works, this win rate is going to increase even further. We can see all stats going up here, we can see the healing going up, the self-heal, the damage, everything just going really well for her, and she's super popular right now anyways. In Joust, her performance went up in a similar way, we're also roughly around 52%, with an increase of 55. In Clash, her win rate is almost 53% and it went up by 73 spots. And in Siege, her win rate is at 55% and went up by 83 spots to spot number 4. Now the Siege player base is smaller, so these stats are less representative, but I still think this is very interesting to look at. In Ranked, we unfortunately don't have the stats from Smite.gg yet, but we can look at the ones from the last patch. Here her win rate was 45%, but her ban rate was still around 12%. This might be because she was new and people didn't know how to use her, but a fair bit of it is actually towards the higher-ish side, around gold, platinum of the ranks, and the ban rate is lower in lower bronze and silver. So what does her win rate look like right now? Well, overall it's still not that good. 48% is still a 28 increase compared to before, but looks kind of bad. But there's a good reason for that, and that's in the details of the stats, so to speak. She is played significantly more at lower levels than she is at higher levels because her ban rate at higher levels is significantly higher. Overall, I will say that these stats are not super representative yet because it's a super small sample size, but it can give us some indication of how things might go for in the future. What we can see is that in Gold, she is at a 55% win rate right now with 255 picks. Still a very small sample size, but very, very high at this point. In Platinum, we see 52% win rate. In the modes above that, she's barely ever picked at all. She's got like 19 or 4 picks, and that doesn't really reflect anything. That's just too small of a sample size. Yet at the same time, she is frequently banned, which speaks for itself, I think. So generally, in my eyes, she definitely has a lot of potential to go up from here. And what's especially interesting for me here is how she would perform in competitive. Unfortunately, we won't have competitive games for a while, so we can't see that. But Umoja's ultimate especially should have such a massive impact in competitive games that it would be very interesting to see how far her performance can be pushed there on the highest level of play, where now it's easier to confirm things as well all the time, setting up so much CC, having so much heal and so much control over the fights. It's also interesting that Umoja can at this point be played in pretty much any role but ADC. She's naturally designed for support, she does pretty decent in solo with the lack of need for mana. She does pretty decent in mid apparently, according to some people that have played her there because of the damage that she has. And she actually feels good in jungle as well, which I found surprising. Especially because you can very easily confirm both bubbles of the one on the same camp, and that means you get very high secure damage, whereas in a wave you have to split that between two parts. So overall I would say she is definitely in a very strong spot, a very interesting spot. I would not be surprised if she sees some nerfs for compensation soon, but we'll see how she develops. And that's it for today's video. I hope this was interesting and insightful. If you're new to the channel, feel the sub button and ring the bell, it really helps me out. And other than that, see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out.
Oh my god!